Hi everyone, welcome to the final part of my Downswing series. So if you watched the previous two parts, you should have a good general understanding of what the upper body does and the hips do in the downswing. So today I'm going to be going over the final piece of the puzzle, which will be about your arms and wrists in the downswing. And if you haven't watched the previous two parts, I would suggest that you do so that when you're watching this one, you would have a really good understanding of how everything ties together. If you are new to the channel, be sure to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more golf related content. Let's get into it. So in my opinion, the vast majority of amateur players that I've worked with have had the most difficulty with this part of the downswing. And I think it's partly because of the fact that nobody really understands how the arms affect the club. Now, the arms can move the club in many different ways, but you can basically classify them into three movements. So the first thing that the arms can control in the downswing is the shallowing or the steepening of the shaft. Okay, so when looking at it from the side view, if I go to the top position here, if I come down, my arms can control whether the shaft shallows, okay, which is kind of the more dropping, or the shaft getting more horizontal, or it can actually cause the shaft to get more steep, which is when the club gets more vertical in the downswing. So next, the arms can affect the radius of your swing, which is basically the distance between your lead shoulder and the club head. So if I get to the top and I come down, if I use my arms in a certain way, I can increase the radius. So you can see that the distance between my lead shoulder and the club is very, very long at this point. Or I can make the radius shorter by bending my arms in a certain way, like this. So the distance between the club head and my lead shoulder has greatly decreased. Okay. And third, the arms and wrists can control how much the face is rotating. So if I were to just hold the club head in front of you like this, if I just twist my arms kind of side to side, you can see that the club face itself is opening and closing. Starting from the side view, after your hips begin to move towards the target, the lead arm begins to slowly pull away from the right shoulder and move across the chest. A common error is when the arms pull away too much or too early, which will cause excessive outward movement and will most likely result in swinging across the golf ball. So if you are doing this correctly, I should be able to see the shaft and hands move through the middle or lower part of your trail bicep. As the lead arm continues to pull away from the right shoulder and you get closer to impact, I want you to take note of how my wrists are positioned. The lead wrist is slightly flexed, while the trail wrist would typically stay in a more extended position. This helps to prevent the shaft from becoming more vertical and keeps the club head behind the hands slightly. This is also helps to keep the club face more closed. The common mistake is for the wrist to be in the opposite position. So the lead wrist is more extended while the trail wrist is more flexed. This throws the club head outside of your hands, which again is another outward movement. Then finally, the trail arm is able to fully extend just after impact. Now from the front view, I just want to talk about the radius of the swing mainly. So by the time the lead arm is parallel with the ground, the better golfers would typically show a smaller angle between the shaft and the arm, whereas the worst players would increase the angle. This is mainly due to the unhinging of the wrists, and this causes the radius of the swing to extend out too early, and therefore the low point becomes too far behind the ball. This will then require the golfer to shorten the radius by bending the arms and wrists to avoid the ground and make impact. Now, if done correctly, the hands will continue to move ahead of the club head, and the downward force of the club will cause the wrist to unhinge until the radius is fully extended. Now, some people may think both arms should be extended right as you hit it, but since we want to make impact with the shaft leaning forward, the radius would not be at its longest until after you have hit down on the ball. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this series gave you guys some really good general information as to what different parts of your body do in the downswing and just how everything ties together. If you have any questions or want further clarification on anything, please leave a comment down below. I will try my best to answer any questions. But other than that, I will see you guys on the next video.